When I chose to retire at the end of October, there were a lot of steps and a lot of thought processes that went into that. So I'm going to share with you today how I decided that I could live a simple retirement and how I could still do fun things while retiring simply. And I'm going to share some of those practices with you today that I have added along the way to make my dream come true. So our frugal living paid off because look at this resort that we saved for to stay at. It is absolutely heavenly. It has its own private beach and it has very limited hotel rooms, and so we are here with hardly any people. It is so worth it. Hi, if you don't know me, I'm Bonita and I'm from rural Kansas. I was raised by Depression era parents and I live very simply. I have always chosen to live simply and I enjoy that. I enjoy the nature, the country feel. I enjoy simple living. Now, I know that's not something that everybody enjoys, but let me tell you the steps that led up to my decision to retire early at the end of October and different self-sufficient practices that I have added into my daily routine to not only make it rewarding, but fun and have extra money left over at the end of the month. Many people will say there is a retirement crisis right now and that a lot of people don't know how they're going to retire. And a lot of people talk about crazy benchmark numbers that you need to be able to retire. But I want to let you know that those numbers are very personal, not only to you, but to your situation and to the way that you live, where you live, and what you choose to do in retirement. So don't let those numbers scare you until you've actually sat down and put a pencil to paper to figure out what you need. A lot of people will ask others, do I have enough to retire? Well, that is something that you personally would only be the one that would know, is if you have enough to retire. And that's based on that budget and what your actual expenditures are, not your expenses, your expenditures. Expenditures can be all of those extras in addition to your housing, your food, your transportation. Your expenditures are those extras that you intend to buy or buy on a regular basis. And that's why your budget and tracking those expenses and expenditures is so important, especially if you're planning to retire. When I was thinking about retiring early, I looked at what kind of income I would have coming in if I retired early and how I could make more money or how I could make my money stretch. Now, my husband and I married later in life, and we have always kept our money separate, but we have a savings account together. Now, this is something that I wanted to do. I am very independent. I've always been very independent. I don't want to be reliant on someone else. I don't want to be beholden to having services or things given to me. That's part of the reason I never applied for disability. Now, this has nothing to do with whether or not other people have chosen to go that route or needed to go that route. It's just a personal thing that I decided that I didn't want to apply for disability. And the reason being is I worked as a nursing home administrator for many, many years, and I saw people getting their Social Security or getting disability only to get those horrible letters in the mail that would say, we miscalculated and now you owe us this back. And it would be an astronomical number. And then they would start chunking out those amounts out of their monthly income. And they would be like, how am I going to make it? I just saw little things like that throughout my career that made me not want to rely on others to support me or not want to rely on the government to provide what I needed. And that's part of the reason that I live so simply in retirement. But those are, again, my personal choices and things that went into my decision on how I was going to retire early and how I was going to make ends meet. So I had a decent paying job. I was a nursing home administrator, and I decided to start seeing if I could live on less. My kids were grown. I had them through college, and I now didn't need as much money to survive as I had before when I had all of the kids at home. So I started cutting back, and we opened our own businesses, and I worked for a while we had our businesses. Then I quit for a while. We opened a second business, and then that business didn't do so well. We decided to go ahead and close that business, and I went back to work making less than half than I did in my career. And that was on purpose. That was because I wanted to see if I could live on less. I didn't want to be on call 24/7, and I wanted to just have a Monday through Friday job, 8 to 5, with no other responsibilities with that job. And I felt taking that pay cut was worth it. So I took a less paying job. I was in less demand. And as time went on, I saw I could live on one of the 2 paychecks that I was getting per month. And I started just sticking that extra paycheck back. I started really watching those expenditures. I started lowering some of my budget areas like clothing, because I had all of this clothing that I've had for many, many years. I had plenty of dress clothes, home clothes, and I saw that I really didn't need to be adding to that. So I started cutting back in areas that I just didn't need. And as time went on and I started stacking this cash, I started seeing more areas that I could control, or more areas that I didn't need the money allotted in those areas on my budget, because I just wasn't using that money or that part of the budget. And then I started seeing what I could really live on comfortably. Through this, I was not only building savings, but I was building my confidence, and I was building my security in the future. And I started building more frugal skills as my creativity continued to blossom through this entire experience. I started reusing things, repurposing things, making more handmade items and more homemade items. I started substituting items. I started inventorying what I had and seeing what I could use that was already in my house. I started selling items that I had sitting around. Even this last month, I started going through some things, and I sold a pair of jean shorts on eBay that have been sitting around here for a long time. I sold a clarinet on Facebook Marketplace. I just started selling extra things sitting around the house that I didn't need. I started gardening and enjoying learning to forage and building more of my homesteading skills. And those became more like hobbies to me than anything else. I don't think of them as a way to save money anymore. I think of them as something fun I want to try today. I started learning more self-sufficient practices and enjoying them as hobbies, like water bath canning. And through all of this, I was not beholden to anyone. I discussed with my husband the idea that I could quit work early. I told him that I had figured that I could support myself, and we discussed whether or not he wanted to quit early or not. We are the same age. And I told him that I knew I could do this because I had been practicing for the last several years, and I was confident that this was the right move for me. In the end, I had no one to please but myself. My husband is super supportive. He is trusting of my judgment, and he knows that I know how to take care of myself, and he is always encouraging me to do whatever I am interested in. So through this process, I was able to retire early, and it has been so much easier than I thought. We are still able to travel, which is one of the things that I love to do. We are still able to go out to eat when we want to, take our kids out to eat, and do special things that we enjoy together. Sometimes we go to the lake and he goes fishing. Sometimes we go camping. We do lots of different fun things throughout the week and throughout the month. So I try to plan some of those fun things every single month. So if you have thought about living on less or getting out of a very stressful job and maybe moving to a less stressful job or one that didn't demand 7 days of the week from you, those are steps that I would recommend. I would recommend budgeting, tracking your expenses, looking at those expenditures to see if they are things that you can cut out of your budget or things that you really don't want that bad. Sometimes people have really big wish lists, and that is something that I never really have had. I've traveled to all 50 states. I've traveled to Canada. I've wintered in Texas now for 3.5 months in my RV. I'm now looking at possibly wintering in Arizona or Florida or a different area at some point. I have goals of things that I want to do, and they're all reachable goals. And that's what is so exciting about living this self-sufficient life, is it makes you have more choices than just sitting around in retirement and watching the next streaming program of whatever it is. We have a rule. We don't even turn on the TV until after 5. I am always finding things to do that I enjoy during the day. The TV is something we do in the evenings together. It's not something that I do during the day, and I never get bored in retirement. And isn't that what retirement is supposed to be? It's supposed to be fun, exciting, relaxing, enjoyable. And it's not supposed to break the bank or break your savings. And my retirement does exactly that. I am so satisfied with my decision, and I hope that my videos encourage you wherever you are in your life at this point, that you can make things easier on yourself if you're struggling, or maybe you can enjoy some of these fun, self-sufficient practices that I have started enjoying now that I have more time and they've become my hobbies. Thanks for watching today, and I hope to see you in the next video.